Videos for those of you that know that you have so much more potential and so much more gas in the tank, but you just don't know how to extract it. You know that there is a lot more inside of you that's capable of doing some pretty significant things, and you know that you're able to get rich, to live that badass life, to go travel the world and do cool stuff. And for some reason, you're just not there. You're leaving it on the table. You're not giving it your all. And so that's what this video is for those of you that are that. And so you have more inside of you, and you know that you have more inside of you. Yet you don't give all because you're afraid of what that looks like, of what that intensity looks like. Because you know that when you work harder and you put more time in it, and put more effort into something, then now that's the new bar. That new bar is what you have to show up as every single day. And that scares you. You're afraid of unlocking that side of yourself because you're afraid of having to perform at this higher level on a regular basis. And your comfort brain, the brain, the part of yourself that wants to try to keep you safe and comfortable and not work too hard and to kind of take the easier path, doesn't want you to see that side of yourself. It doesn't want you to see that intensity, that depth that you can go, the extents that you can push yourself, because that's not easy. That's hard. It's way easier if you don't show that side of yourself and you don't express that version of yourself and you don't do that for weeks on end and push yourself to the uttermost limit that you ever thought was possible, because it's scary. Because now you're gonna have to do that every single day. You're gonna have to find out how to get more of that substance, or else then you feel depressed or sad or angry because you can't get back to that state, and it's difficult to maintain that state. And I'm saying this from firsthand experience because I was that way myself. I was able to get to a good amount of a work ethic. But I always knew that there was more inside of me. I always knew that there was more potential that I had within myself to express myself more, to go deeper, to go above and beyond, to go the extra mile with anybody that I was working with, or any project that I was working on, or any sort of video that I was making, or any sort of quantity of output that I was curating. I knew that there was a lot more inside of me, but I kind of would let days go by, weeks go by, months go by, where the things weren't getting done. I wouldn't allow for myself to explore that side of myself. I would kind of withhold it from myself. And so that was until I would reach some really desperate moments where, I'd run out of money, or I had to hit some sort of objective and the deadline was coming up before I was shit out of luck and it was too late. And those deadlines were what forced me to bring this side of myself out, of this maximum efficiency, this maximum productivity, of having this output that was scary. That was just where did this side of myself come from? And it was only then, in those moments, when I had to make it work, and I had no other option. Otherwise, then I was going to miss payroll, or I was going to not get the results. I was going to be inadequate if I didn't do the thing. And that's where you are right now. You have this bird in a cage that you have trapped. You are afraid of letting it out because you're afraid of what will happen. You're afraid of the bird running away, and you can never get the bird ever again, and you're never able to experience the bird ever again. And what I will say is, if the bird's supposed to come back, you've been feeding it properly, and it feels safe inside it, it feels comfortable inside of your environment, the bird will come back. What I'm saying here is that you have a lot more within you. You haven't really tapped into that full potential. You're not fully expressing yourself, and that's okay. But the question I have for you is, how much longer are you willing to settle for your current circumstances? How much longer are you willing to live the day that you have every single day on repeat, where it feels like the time keeps going faster, where you keep living the same day over and over again, where you honestly just feel like there's a part of you that's trapped and never is able to, never, like your soul feels trapped and it just is never able to fully be able to express itself. And the time is ticking. You only have so much time. And how much longer, how many more seconds, how many more days, how many more weeks, how many more months, how many more years, how many more decades are you going to let go by of not ever giving yourself that real shot or tapping into that full potential that you know that you have within you? And that's the goal inside of this video, is like for you guys, is kind of just ask them questions. You know, I a lot of times give you guys the answers, but I wanted to, in this one, kind of just lead you through this thought process yourself. Because in reality, it's like you can do so much more. You're capable of so much more. And you know that you're capable of so much more. So why don't you express that? Are you scared? Are you afraid that you expressing yourself to the fullest extent is not good enough? That your best is not good enough for what is needed or what is required in your relationship, in your financial world, in starting up your own business, or going and doing your own thing and generating income online, or in, you know, these rooms or these friend circles that you're in that you think are friends, but they're not actually necessarily your friends. It's just a convenient relationship. Are you afraid of expressing yourself, or it's like too much for people? You're too intense. You're too scary. You're too much. You're too intense. Is there such thing as too intense? And if you're inadequate, at least you know where you need to improve, where you need to get better, what your skill deficiencies are. When it comes to building businesses, when I've studied like companies that have like overnight gone from nothing to making $30 million a year, $50 million a year, they do this system where I'll just call it, like, I'll come up with the name of it, like where they stress test the business. And what they do is they will, in each of the different areas, let's say, you know, in a normal business, you have to have the marketing, you have to have sales, you have to have marketing systems, you have to have sales systems, you have to have fulfillment systems, and then, you know, the administrative systems that come around with it. So what the businesses that will blow up the fastest will typically do is, typically they'll have really strong systems, but the ones where they didn't really necessarily have the systems and they kind of got to rebuild them from the ground up, is they will stress test each of the different categories and just push it until the solution to the problem is it's just glaringly obvious. So what they'll do is they'll just inject lots of attention, lots of marketing onto a brand, and then just see what happens with sales. A lot of times it'll just fall to pieces. And, you know, there'll be some sort of, like, whether it's just like the people aren't showing up to the demos or the sales demos, they're not, the people are just not coming in with the right frame or the right mindset, or the sales team just isn't quality enough, you know, their closing rate really isn't there, or, you know, they're just not getting the right customer in through the door. And it becomes glaringly obvious when you stress test, when you just overload a system, when you overwhelm it, something will break, and it will be obvious what that thing is that broke, what the issue is with it, and then you can fix it. And what they will do is they will do that over and over and over and over again until they have a business that's pretty much bulletproof, that is able to take in large amounts of capacity. It has systems that are simplified down to where it is able to work for all these different use cases. And they have an extremely effective product because they've had so much diversity of like people, like of clients or use cases for their product, that they know all the different potential issues with it, and they know the core things that they need to focus on and the more customers that they need to get for the thing. And so that same exact process is what I tried to apply to myself. Is I try to just push myself to these places where things break, and I find out where these things are breaking. Sometimes it's my relationship, sometimes it's like communication skills, sometimes it's my own energy levels, and it's just like I I will stress the system until it breaks, and it becomes kind of scary at the beginning, because it's like, your skill sets of, your feelings of inadequacy, you'll see them right away. You'll feel wicked insecure really quickly, because you just realize how good you are, like how poor you are at things. And I put myself into situations like I learned salsa dancing, or I would go out and try to force myself to meet friends. And doing this, as soon as I put myself into those environments, I would have a feedback loop that was pre-installed, like that I would have immediately. I would know whether or not what I was doing is successful or not, just like the business. I would know that whether or not my marketing efforts are providing the result. I would know whether or not how I show up every day, how I dress, or how I present myself, or how I do said thing. I will know immediately what result I got from the input that I put into the system, and then I will have feedback from it. And so the more that I put myself out there, and the more that I give of myself, of my energy, the more I try to stack up my calendar and do ridiculous amounts of meetings and try to do all sorts of things. It starts to become a muscle that you develop, which is you become significantly more effective. You're capable. You realize that you're capable of so much more, and these things that you were, I guess, afraid of at the beginning, it starts to become your norm. It's like, I remember going into the sauna for the first time ever, and I could barely last like 2 minutes in the sauna. It was like 180 degrees. It was so hard to stay inside of there. But then over time, as I started staying in it longer and longer, first of all, I just started getting more comfortable in the heat. And I would go from 2 minutes to 5 minutes to 10 minutes inside of there straight, to 20 minutes, to where I was able to do 30 to 40 minutes depending on the day, where I was able to sit in this room that was 180 degrees. And part of it was, I was just able to become extremely more comfortable inside of there. And then also my body was able to kind of adapt to the heat, and it was used to this extreme change. And I would kind of keep reaching new levels and new depths of pushing myself. And there was kind of this constant looming thought in the back of my head of like, what if I could die, or what if I pass out, or something like that. But I just never let that voice kind of get in the way. I never let that voice get in the way of what I was doing. And that allowed me to push to new limits that I never thought possible, until I got to the point where like my teeth would feel numb, or my fingertips would feel numb. And I kept finding these new levels and these new depths of going into it, of how deep I could go, how much I could push myself. And I started to apply that philosophy to, how I show up, the amount of work that I do. Even when I feel tired sometimes, I even like recording this video after just getting off of like 12 hours of flying, I'm like, I need to do the thing. I need to go do the work. And I just push myself, and I go and find these things. What I'm trying to say inside this video basically is, you are capable of so much more, and you know that you are capable of so much more. And what I will say is, it's scary to kind of push yourself to these limits, but I think you will find that you're capable of so much more than you thought. And what it takes is just giving yourself that shot and just doing the thing. And you will see just how much more output that you get, and you will get addicted to that feeling of pushing yourself to these new limits, and of hitting a new financial thresholds, and of hitting new levels of relationships and friendships and people that you work with, and reaching new levels of happiness and joy in your life, and reaching new depths inside of yourself of like knowing who you are. And what I will say, it's a worthwhile journey, and I think you need to go figure it out. That's what I got.